Hello, English learners and practitioners. I'm Jennifer. Let's start a new episode of the podcast Your English Always Better. Today, we bring a dialogue between English teachers Lucy and Dennis, who share how they learned English and what are, in general, their students' biggest learning challenges. They'll also give tips for those who want to improve their English level. So, stay until the end. We'll also present words used in the dialogue and their meanings to expand your vocabulary. So get ready, because we're about to begin.
Hi, Lucy. It's great to see you here. I was just thinking about how we can help our students learn English more easily. Have you noticed any recurring difficulties in your classes?
Hi, Dennis. What a coincidence. I was also reflecting on that. I've noticed that many students struggle with pronunciation and are afraid to speak in public. They seem to understand well but freeze when it comes to expressing themselves. What have you observed?
Exactly the same. Additionally, I noticed that many have trouble with listening. They can understand written texts, but when it comes to auditory comprehension, especially with different accents, they get lost. It reminds me of when I was learning English.
Oh, yes. I also had a lot of difficulty with listening at the beginning. I remember one of the things that helped me the most was watching series and movies in English. At first, I used Portuguese subtitles, then switched to English subtitles, and finally without subtitles.
That's a great strategy. I did something similar. I started with sitcoms which have simpler and everyday dialogues. Friends was my first series without subtitles. It was challenging at first, but it really helped with vocabulary and idiomatic expressions.
Friends was also fundamental in my learning. Speaking of series, I think we should encourage our students to do this more. Maybe we can create a film or series club at school, where we watch together and then discuss in English. What do you think?
I love the idea. We could start with short sitcom episodes and gradually move to more complex movies and series. This would help not only with listening but also with speaking, as we would discuss afterward. And we could focus on different accents too.
Exactly. And thinking about accents, another thing that helped me a lot was listening to podcasts in English. I started with podcasts for English learners and then moved on to podcasts about topics that interested me, like history and science.
Podcasts are excellent indeed. I still listen to them a lot, especially during my commute to work. I think we could create a list of recommended podcasts for our students, categorized by level and topic. This would give them options to practice anywhere.
Great idea. We can even include podcasts about the culture of English-speaking countries. This would help not only with the language but also with cultural understanding, which is so important. Speaking of which, do you think we should encourage more students to travel?
Absolutely. Traveling was one of the most transformative experiences in my English learning. I remember my first trip to the United States. I was terrified to speak at first, but after a few days, I realized I was communicating much better.
I had a similar experience when I went to England. It's amazing how we're forced to use the language in real situations. But I know not all students have that opportunity. How can we bring a bit of that experience into the classroom?
Good question. We could create simulated situations, like a mini exchange at school. Maybe dedicate an entire day where only English can be spoken, simulating travel situations, like checking into a hotel or ordering food at a restaurant.
I love that idea. We could even decorate different rooms as if they were different English-speaking countries. And how about inviting native speakers to participate? I have some foreign friends who would love to help.
That would be amazing. Students would have the chance to interact with native speakers in a safe environment. Speaking of interaction, I think we should encourage students to seek practice opportunities outside the classroom.
I totally agree. Maybe we can create a weekly conversation group where students can practice freely. And how about encouraging them to use language exchange apps? I used them a lot when I was learning, and they were very helpful.
Excellent suggestion. Language exchange apps are great for practicing writing and speaking. Speaking of writing, I think we should also encourage more reading. Do you have any strategies for that?
Yes. I always recommend that students start with books they've already read in their native language. That way, they already know the story and can focus more on the language. Gradually, they can move on to new books, appropriate for their level.
Good idea. I also like to recommend online magazines and newspapers. They can start with short news articles and gradually increase complexity. Plus, it's a great way to stay updated on the culture of English-speaking countries.
True. And speaking of culture, I think we should incorporate more cultural elements into our classes. Maybe dedicate one class a month to a different cultural aspect, like music, literature, or history of English-speaking countries.
I love that idea. We could even organize themed events, like a British music night or an American book club. This would make learning more engaging and contextualized.
I do something similar. I also like to create a relaxed environment in the classroom where students feel safe to take risks. Sometimes, we play games where the goal is to make mistakes on purpose. This helps demystify the fear of making mistakes.
What a brilliant idea. I'll adopt that in my classes. Another thing I've been doing is encouraging students to keep a diary in English. It doesn't have to be elaborate, just a few lines a day about what they did or what they're thinking.
I love the diary idea. It helps not only with writing but also with thinking in English. I usually suggest they write about their dreams first thing in the morning. It's a great way to start the day practicing English.
Excellent suggestion. And speaking of daily practice, what do you think about encouraging students to change the language of their electronic devices to English? This creates constant immersion in the language.
Great idea. I did that when I was learning, and it helped a lot. Additionally, we can suggest they follow English accounts on social media, according to their interests. It's a fun and current way to practice.
I completely agree. And thinking about technology, how about we create a WhatsApp or Discord group where students can only communicate in English? We could propose daily or weekly challenges to keep them engaged.
I loved it. We could have themed days, like Tuesday Trivia or Idiom Friday. This would encourage regular participation and help expand vocabulary in a fun way. And how about including some online games in English in our recommendations?
Excellent idea. Games are a great way to practice the language in an engaging way. We could even organize group gaming sessions where students need to communicate in English to cooperate or compete.
That would be so much fun. And thinking about practical activities, how about encouraging students to make recipes in English? They could watch cooking videos in English and then try to replicate them, practicing listening and vocabulary at the same time.
I love that idea. We could even organize an international potluck, where each student brings a typical dish from an English-speaking country and presents the recipe in English. It would be a great way to combine language and cultural learning.
That would be amazing. Speaking of presentations, I think we should encourage more students to do oral presentations. Maybe we can organize an internal TED Talk where students present on topics that interest them.
Excellent suggestion. This would help not only with English but also with public speaking skills. We could even record these presentations and create a school YouTube channel with the students' consent, of course.
Great idea. This would give students a platform to showcase their progress and could inspire others. And speaking of inspiration, how about we create an English learning goals board at school? Students could share their goals and celebrate their achievements.
I love it. This would create a sense of community and motivation. We could even have a monthly ceremony to celebrate students who have achieved their goals. And how about implementing a buddy system between students of different levels?
Great idea. More advanced students could help beginners, reinforcing their own learning in the process. This would also help create connections between classes. And thinking about connections, how about organizing virtual exchanges with schools in English-speaking countries?
That would be fantastic. We could have video conference sessions where our students talk with students from other countries. It would be an incredible cultural and linguistic immersion experience. And it would help show the global relevance of English.
Exactly. And speaking of relevance, I think we should emphasize more how English can be useful in their careers. How about inviting professionals from different fields to talk about how they use English at work?
Excellent idea. This would give students a practical perspective on using English in the real world. We could even organize an English career fair, where companies that value English come to talk to our students.
I love it. That would certainly motivate many students. Dennis, I think we have a lot of excellent ideas here. How can we start implementing them?
I agree, Lucy. How about we schedule a meeting with the team next week to share these ideas and create an action plan? We can start with some smaller initiatives and gradually expand.
Perfect. I'm very excited about all these possibilities. I'm sure our students will love these new approaches. Thank you for the inspiring conversation, Dennis.
Thank you, Lucy. It was great exchanging ideas with you. I can't wait to start implementing all this. I'm sure it will make a big difference in our students' learning.
Wow, so much important information for those who want to improve their English. What did you think? Tell us in the comments. Now, let's highlight 3 words used in the dialogue to expand your vocabulary. First word. Approaches. Meaning. Methods or ways of dealing with a situation, problem, or subject. Dialogue phrase. I'm very excited about all these possibilities. I'm sure our students will love these new approaches. Second word. Emphasize. Meaning. To give emphasis, highlight, stress the importance of something. Dialogue phrase. I always emphasize that making mistakes is part of the learning process. Third word. Exchange. Meaning. Mutual exchange. Process of exchanging experiences, knowledge, or information between people, groups, or institutions. Dialogue phrase. And thinking about connections, how about organizing virtual exchanges with schools in English-speaking countries? That's it, dear English learners. If this content was useful to you, take the opportunity to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Go ahead and write in the comments about what kind of topics you want us to make videos about to help you learn English. Wait until the end of the video to see suggestions for other podcasts that will help you improve your English level. Thank you for being here. See you in the next videos.